Thanks for joining us on another episode of The Grind. Here's your host, JB.
Hey, welcome back. We're heading into SoCon Championship weekend here in Boone pretty soon. Coming up this weekend will be a great event. But before we get to that, talking a little bit about that, I've caught rumblings around the program campus in Boone of some fantastic news. Probably, if anybody's listened to us in the first season, you've heard me beat this drum and probably too loudly for some. I know. I know. Sometimes I've had to wake up in the morning and look and not necessarily regret, but wish I would have chose some better words. But some great news coming out of Mr. Gillin this past Saturday, or the Saturday before, actually, in Boone when we were up there for a retreat for the Yosef Club. So, without further ado, let's go check in with the athletic director himself, Mr. Gillin. Doug, appreciate you joining us this evening.
Jeremy, thanks for having me on. I appreciate being with you.
Yeah, it's been a passion project of mine, as you know, and as I think anybody that follows what we do here on The Grind is to make people aware of how successful our wrestling program is, and really, you know, we say it a lot for everything we do in Boone, right? Doing more for less. But there's probably one program that I think everybody would agree upon, and that is wrestling has really done more with a lot less than even their peer schools.
No, I think you're right. I think since I arrived 7 years ago, we've been underfunded on the scholarship standpoint for a number of our sports, and certainly wrestling is one of them. And to your point, with all the success that they have had, John Mark Bentley, from a coaching standpoint, our student athletes, SoCon championships, NCAA qualifiers, et cetera, they certainly have done a great job, and we're looking forward to continuing to increase the funding model, as we can.
Yeah. So Doug, I've heard the rumors. We were chatting back and forth with some of the staff, especially John Mark, and just trying to feel it out if what we were hearing was the word. But you confirmed that not this past Saturday, but the Saturday before that, I was in town for the Yosef Club Advisory Board meeting, and I didn't even have to ask you about it. You came out, and the meeting was proud to make the announcement. What do we have to look forward to this coming up? I guess this next season for wrestling.
Yeah, and I think this is for all of our sports, but certainly wrestling is a part of this. We are super excited. Now, we got some work to do from the Yosef Club. As I was talking to that board and you were there, right? We got to raise some more money, but the plan is absolutely to fully fund our scholarships for all of our sports. And I couldn't be more excited. It's been a goal for the last 7 years. Trying to, obviously 2 of those were very, very challenging. But to come out of COVID that we talked about, we went into COVID. Certainly, the good news is we were able to balance our budget. The bad news is a lot of difficult decisions were made along the way to make sure that was possible. And then we wanted to come out of it better than we went into it. And coming out of it, one of the things that we want to do is fully fund our scholarships for our student athletes, give them an opportunity to compete at the highest level. So we're trying to do that right now. It's in motion. Still have a gap in Yosef, so we need that to continue to grow, and I can't thank you enough for the work you and all of our Yosef Club members, everything they've done. And then certainly, as you and I have talked about with in-state, out-of-state tuition, becoming something that we're going to be able to work ourselves into, then that's going to help us as well. Try to close that gap and fully fund.
Yeah, that was an interesting decision. It's only been a couple of years, right, that they changed the legislation to take all what we traditionally or had in the past seen as just being able to fund all scholarships as in-state rate, shifted that away from us, almost handicapped ourselves, right? Because our peers and surrounding states don't necessarily follow that model. But we moved to a situation where we were having to pay out-of-state tuition rate for out-of-state student athletes, which, as we all know, the more successful you are, the better your recruiting base and the further you can reach outside of your own state. So interesting decisions being played there, but it's not solely just the fact that we were able to rotate back to a full in-state tuition for our student athletes that's getting us to that position.
Well, and to your point, yeah, and I believe it was 2010. It used to be in-state and out-of-state was the same, and it stayed for academics. Like, and this is not just Appalachian. Just to be clear, this is the state. State University is part of the North Carolina system, and so that was in 2010 when that rule kind of reverted back. You were kind of doing was the same, and then in 2010, I believe it went to just academics. Athletics actually was a carve out that was the only part of the university that still had to pay out-of-state tuition. And then it just reverted back. Now, again, the good thing for us at Appalachian, what that's going to allow us to do is actually fund more scholarships. So it's not like net that it helps us do anything other than fund more scholarships, give more students an opportunity. And to your point, yes, out of state, but certainly a lot of in-state students are going to get more scholarship opportunities at Appalachian and all the North Carolina schools as well. So I think this is really a win-win on a lot of different fronts, and certainly for all of the schools in North Carolina, but particularly just for us, this really helps us start looking at that. And it's one of the things, like, we're going to have to grow into it, so it's not like overnight, because you got to kind of recruit towards that. And so all of our coaches now are looking at the news and looking at their scholarships, looking at where they are, and from freshmen, all their classes and how they're spread out and how they might be able to do that. And we're working with them all. Now's the time we budget anyways. But with that premise that as you recruit in-state and out-of-state, that we'll be able to spend that the same.
Yeah, I'm sure that Appalachian State wasn't the only university beating up the folks in Raleigh to try to get that reverted back to a more level playing field, for sure. An interesting move in 2010 when it happened. I remember thinking to myself, we're kind of only handicapping ourselves. I mean, this isn't affecting schools outside of North Carolina, for sure. But to see them rotate back or revert back to the way it was, definitely makes the playing field a little bit easier. And you mentioned recruiting kids in-state, right? Like, that's kind of what John Mark and the App State wrestling team is known for, especially John Mark and other programs within App State. App State Athletics just featured Thomas Flitz as a homegrown recently there on the social media. So being able to leverage that home North Carolina talent, the homegrown talent like that, to have more scholarships available for the talented folks that are in our state is definitely big news for John Mark and the team, and I'm sure other programs in the athletic department as well.
Yeah, I do think that was part of as we were talking about it with a lot of folks is. Yeah, that's really going to help kids in the state of North Carolina too. It's not like Appalachian all of a sudden is going to recruit all out-of-state student athletes. Certainly we have historically, and certainly to your point with Sun Belt, and the footprint's a little bit different, maybe more so than in the Southern Conference. But again, the net is more students in the state of North Carolina are going to be able to access scholarships from all of our institutions, Appalachian being one of them. And I do think it just helps you. I love what John Mark has done with the homegrown talent, with recruiting North Carolina. And that's not going to change. And that's not going to change. He's just going to have maybe more opportunities. And as you know, as well as anybody, when you're going against some of these schools that are fully funded, and you're half funded, then there is a discrepancy, right? And so our student athletes compete at a high level. But the last thing I would say, and you touched on it, Jeremy, it was not equal to the peers that we recruit against in other states. They just had other advantages from statewide scholarships or et cetera, some advantages financially that we weren't able to take advantage of. And now we are. So I'm really, really thankful for all the folks in Raleigh that made this happen and around our state, quite frankly. Our local politicians, statewide politicians, board of governors, everybody was just our board of trustees that had to approve it. Certainly our chancellor and her leadership throughout this whole conversation for us over the last 6 or 7 years. And so it really starts with Chancellor Everts, being amenable to letting us look into this, and then it kind of goes from there. But really can't thank Chancellor Everts and our leadership at the university enough. Yeah,
for sure. And as you said, the names to thank, the people to thank, helping the state to get back to where we're on a more level playing ground is too numerous to mention all of them. So appreciate all those folks that were involved in that. Doug, it's the the App State Wrestling program in the local community of Boone, or even the high country of North Carolina. Kind of the impact that the success has had has kind of spread. I mean, we're seeing Avery County. I'm sure you're hearing about the Avery County wrestling guys and those guys. John Mark's home school, and just that progress and that success spread into the younger folks as well. Also, John Mark started the Boone RTC there in Boone to help be able to fund and drive really the amateur sport of wrestling and the youth in Boone, North Carolina. Just talk about the importance of being in the local university. Obviously, we're not, I hate to say it, but I have to say it because there isn't really a description that fits it. We're not a major market, right? We don't have a population of 1 million people. So what we do as a university impacts our local youth probably more than any other university in the state of North Carolina, being compared in size, just because we're in such a small footprint in the market. Just kind of talk to the importance of that and seeing the success in the local sports, even Watauga High. I mean, look at the success with Watauga High and their football team over there. So, just talk to that impact a little bit, and how App State, our success kind of feeds that local talent.
Yeah, and I think it starts, certainly starts at our university level as well. I mean, we're invested in the community at the university level. You see app students invested, across our communities, and then certainly from an athletic standpoint, we take that, really, really seriously. When we talk about our 4 core values, we talk about academic integrity, getting your degree. That's number 1. We talk about number 2, social responsibility, giving back, and we believe you got to give to get. If you want folks to support you, you got to go out there and support them. And we do a lot of that. I mean, I think pre-COVID there was, I know pre-COVID there's a metric that's called helper, and we were number 5 in the country in terms of hours that we gave back to our community across all Division One. So that we take that very, very seriously. Our third core value is competitive excellence. We want to continue to keep winning, and wrestling has certainly done an amazing job historically from a competitive standpoint. And then really world-class experience, and that's how we give back to our student athletes to make sure they have the experience that they came here for. But to your point, we got to grow all of our sports with our youth, whether it's spectators or the future Mountaineers, or, my kids are, 15, 13, 11. I think, Leslie and I and a lot of folks really are invested in youth sports in our community, certainly John Mark. All of our coaches, they all are invested, and I couldn't be more proud of the investment they make. And you can see the grassroots matters, like what John Mark's doing, that matters. And not everybody's going to be a Division I wrestler, but the teachings that he and his staff are providing our youth, from all the skill sets that about, you've been there and seen it, like, just adversity and determination and perseverance and work ethic. They're going to bode well for our youth moving forward. So we're super excited about all the work he's doing in the community and all of our coaches.
Yeah, for sure. It's exciting to see it, because when you're spreading, when your youth are that successful, it's a progression, right? It's a tree. It's a recruiting tree. You see how many kids are coming out of Watauga that are coming to the football program. I think there's 2 at least that I know of out of Avery County Wrestling that have committed to John Mark. So it's cool to see those sort of progressions and the success continue. Doug, you said it. Hats off to the folks of the Yosef clubs, right? The members, to get us to the point where we can finally start to level the playing field. Have the same number of scholarships that our peers do. But I think we'd be amiss not to say that we're not there yet, right? Like, there is still a big gap in between what athletic department is consuming in scholarships and how much the Yosef Club is funding in scholarships. That gap is made up of the money that is made off of athletic revenue. How at today, if we looked at that number today, what would be that number today, and how do we close that gap from revenue-sourced scholarships to Yosef Club source scholarships?
Yeah, that's a great point. So as we mentioned earlier, and I mentioned at the outset, in-state, out-of-state tuition certainly is helpful. It doesn't close the gap in its entirety. And so you're still, just from a scholarship standpoint, probably about $3 million off in terms of how much we raise and then how much we spend just in scholarships. Now that doesn't include, there's a lot of other things going on in cost attendance or in college athletics. One of which is cost of attendance, which we're not able to fully fund right now for all of our student athletes. There other is a Supreme Court case called the Ellison case, and you've seen some rumors of different schools that are a little bit more financially better off than we are able to spend some money on the Ellison case. But really, our focus right now, to your point, Jeremy, is we really got to close that gap. And it's not just in-state, out-of-state. It's getting more people in the Yosef Club, get more people to go plus 10%, get more people to just invest in our program. And it could be the Yosef Club, it could be merchandise, it could be hot dogs, it could be whatever it might be, just to continue to invest and support the Mountaineers. And we haven't even talked about, now we're talking about wrestling in the Southern Conference, but the Sun Belt's getting ready. A new neighborhood is forming, and we were instrumental in forming it. But it's competitive in finances. It's not going to be all about finances, but some of it's going to be about finances, how we compete. And so we got to keep growing the Yosef Club. And I can't thank you and the Yosef Club board for all the work they're doing to help us do that, because it's going to take a lot of us. It's going to take a village to keep growing App State athletics. And we're not near where we want to be. We want to continue to grow, and certainly wrestling's showing us it can be done, but we want to continue to fund.
Yeah, it's got to be exciting for John Mark to realize he's recruiting with a full deck now and going up to sign up to his folks. Doug, the ultimate question, fans, we sat here, and John Mark just come off his the program's 13th conference championship. Football does what football has done, right? Continue to win and perform at a very high level. Basketball's in that same category, both men's and women's. There's a lot of other sports that are in those same categories, is continuing the winning tradition that happens there in Boone at App State. For the fans that are sitting back and saying, well, why do we need to continue to give if we're already winning? What's your answer to those fans that say, well, we're doing well with where we're at right now, but why are we continuing to recruit?
Great question. And I think two things. One is, since I arrived 7 years ago, we have committed and spent more on scholarships than we've ever spent. There's a direct correlation between scholarship investment and competitive excellence. Indisputable. All of the successes you just talked about, including wrestling, because we have spent more on wrestling, not enough, but more, had allowed us to, as you just mentioned, our basketball programs, how we're doing there, how we're doing recruiting. We got, we're a 2-seed and a 4-seed men's and women's. We got the first round bye in the Sun Belt tournament. That's never happened. So we looked at, field hockey, our first win over a top 25 team last year. You look at where we're going in women's soccer and volleyball with 2 brand new head coaches and the type of coaches that we were able to recruit here. You look at baseball and softball, where we won our first games in the Sun Belt tournament last year, respectively, right? And so then you look at the outdoor and indoor track and how we're recruiting, and part of that is scholarships. Part of that is getting that new track built that we're working feverishly to get done this fall. And then I think cross country, the success we've had in cross country, the golfs are getting better. We're continuing to compete in the golfs, looking to make more investments there. I do think the fact that we got to here with more investment, just see where we can go when we're completely funded. And that's from a scholarship level. And that's the really exciting part. As you mentioned, and I just mentioned a lot of successes, we're only halfway up the mountain. When we're fully funded on all these sports, we're going to be winning conference championships and in the NCAA tournaments. And that's always our goal.
Yes, sir. Yeah. And as you pointed out, those that are entering the Sun Belt are not spending less. Right? They're not cutting their budgets. They're not looking to next year to cut money. So if we want to stay competitive, we have to continue to grow. And the same can be said in the SoCon, right? The peers in the wrestling and in the MAC with the field hockey and every other conference that we're involved in, our peers are not spending less next year. I can promise you that. That is not part of their budgeting process.
No, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was just going to point, because you look at Campbell, who's become our biggest rival, as you know, and what their investment has been in the sport of wrestling, and direct correlation between their investment and their success.
100%. It
doesn't buy you everything, but it's certainly important. And we've noticed that. John Mark's noticed that, and that we're both excited to be able to fund him better than he's been and get scholarships funded at 100% level. That's what we're super excited. And again, like that, that match the other day, super exciting, but that was still a full, a university at Campbell that's fully funded against the University of App State that's not. We're going to change that dynamic.
Good. Music to my ears. And Doug, I will add to this. If people aren't paying attention to the schools like Campbell, especially Campbell, and if you're not a Yosef Club member and you're not paying attention to what those guys are doing, not just in wrestling, go and look at their football program, what they've done in the past 5 years, and go and look at what their athletic budget has been from 5 years ago to what it is today. If you're spending money, you're going to be successful. And there are programs that are not on our level right now in the state that are spending a ton of money to try to get to where we're at. So if we just continue the status quo, like saying we're successful, I don't need to join the Yosef Club, I'm just going to stay here. If you don't, they will. Right? And they will jump us before too long if we continue that same mentality. So continuing to support the Yosef Club, the student athletes, Doug, has been what I've said from day one. We've got to continue to grow that Yosef Club, continue to raise money for those scholarships so that we can take our revenues from the athletics department and put it towards growing that program and that budget.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. You're right on. We got to keep growing the Yosef Club, continue to have folks support us, and be remiss if I didn't say the folks that have gotten us to this point. We've got, to your point, like we're on this call tonight because you're passionate about this. You're passionate about being a Mountaineer and about taking this program to heights it's never been. And so am I. So are all of our coaches. And so we just need more people to jump on the bus, and let's keep going.
Yes, sir. Doug, we appreciate you. Hope to see you in the home center on Saturday. There's going to be a battle in the home center on Saturday. March the 5th is going to be the SoCon. What is this? Is this the I think it's the third year in a row that we've hosted that tournament?
Third year in a row. Obviously, COVID. So we had 1 year, then a COVID year, now this year, and we still have a couple more years. So SoCon's been a great partner. This is a great event. Worked really hard to get it. The folks at the home center do a great job. Our university's committed, and so is Boone. So come out if you're watching and you're in Boone. Come out and watch and cheer on our folks, our student athletes on Saturday.
Yeah, it'll be a big-time event. If I'm not mistaken, we took 5 of the 10 weight classes in last year's SoCon Tournament Championship. It'll be a big event, folks. I'm telling you, it's going to be every bit of what it is at the varsity gym. All of the schools will be there. There's another possibility that there could be top 10 wrestlers in the same weight class facing off again at the home center for the SoCon tournament. Varsity Gym was the first time it's ever happened in the SoCon history of wrestling, and the home center on Saturday could be the second time that it ever happened. So don't miss it, folks. I'm telling you, it's going to be electric. Hope to see you there, Doug. Appreciate you joining us this evening and chatting a little bit about what's going on with the wrestling program.
Appreciate you and your passion and what you're doing to support our student athletes. So thank you, Jeremy.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you. Have a great night, Doug.
All right, you too. Thank you.
There you have it, folks. I'm just as excited as probably John Mark when he got that news. It's got to be exciting to be Coach Bentley and know that he's going to be maybe not fully funded yet, but much better off than what he has been in recent years. So exciting news from Doug, and I will tell you, I appreciate his leadership. I don't know that there's another program that's poured as much money into facilities at our peer level as we have. I mean, if you're not in Boone and you don't see what's happening with the athletic facilities at App State, it's been impressive for sure. So appreciate Doug's leadership. Appreciate what he's done to get the wrestling program more on level ground. Definitely doesn't go unnoticed, and appreciate all the hard work that he's put in the athletic department. Hey, that's probably it's been a long 3 years, 4 years actually. I've been beating this drum even before we got this platform, but man, that's great news. Great news to hear. We still have work to do because it's not a fully funded program, but to hear them get their scholarships funded is fantastic. So big news there. Look forward to seeing the signees that JMB can line up for us next season. He's already out hunting, as you've seen him on the recruiting trail. Hey, folks, Saturday at the Home Center. Hope to see you there. I will certainly be there. Appreciate you tuning in, and go Apps.
This has been a production by Yosef Media.